You're watching the Politic-It podcast.
Good evening. Welcome to Politic-It podcast. I'm Senator John Johnson. We've got Sharon Bolos with us today, County Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you.
And candidate for reelection.
Right.
Yeah. Nice to have you. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I've been a county commissioner now for 3.5 years. I'm serving in my first term, running for reelection. Before that, I was the mayor in my city, West Haven, for 8 years. So I brought to the table that experience, which has been very useful in my position. Personally, I was born and raised in Weber County. I spent 1.5 years out of the state while my husband was in school, but other than that,
So where was that?
We were in Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma.
Yeah, went to Fiscal therapy school at the University of Oklahoma. So
Okay.
we're Sooners.
Oh, that's cool.
Or we were Sooners.
Yeah.
We're a little bit Sooners.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it was a really great experience. But of course, we came back and have raised our children here, and all of them still reside.
So you live in West Haven?
I live in West Haven. I grew up in North Ogden. He grew up in West Haven before it was West Haven. So we're back to his old stomping grounds.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of right where he grew up?
Yep.
That's cool. So tell me a little bit about this race.
Okay. Well, when I took office 4 years ago, I really dived in and went to work on my assignments that were given to me. And I feel like I've been really successful at that. I've created great partnerships in the county, both with the elected officials I'm assigned to liaise with, and also with departments in the county. And I have a master's in public administration, which I think brings a strong...
Oh, you do?
I do, yeah. So I got that when I was finishing up my term as a mayor. I went back to school and got my master's in public administration. And that's an important component of this office.
Now, I thought you were an accountant.
I do have a bachelor's degree in accounting.
Oh, okay.
So I got that in my 20s.
Okay.
And went back to school, yeah, when I was at West Haven and got my master's. So
where is that from?
that's from SUU. And I did that online.
Okay.
So, yeah. It was a really fun program, and I actually, at the time, we had a city manager at West Haven, but for the first 6.5 years that I was in office, we didn't have a city manager, and so the mayor acted as the city administrator. So I had a lot of experience. I had a lot of mentors in the county, city managers from other cities, our city attorney. I just had a lot of relationships with people on that profession.
So did you change that then while you were in office?
That changed while I was in office, yes. We adopted an ordinance to hire our first city manager, and then I worked with him for, like I said, 1.5 years before I left office. And at the time, so when I went to school, it was, I wouldn't say an easy degree, it was a lot of work, but I had a lot of experience to bring to it. And when you're in class with a lot of 20-something-year-olds,
right,
that feels good, to have some life experience in what we're learning. And so it was a really fun degree to earn. And so I just, honestly, when we adopted the ordinance to create a city manager position, I really knew that I would miss that part of my office, dealing with the employees and the day-to-day operations. And I thought, when I'm done here, then I think I want to go be a city manager.
Right.
Because I love that, and I think I'll miss that. And that was why I got the degree. And then afterward, was asked if I would consider running for county commission, and
then you won.
And it's both again, right?
Right.
So it's back to what it was as the mayor, which is legislative and administrative. So
you have both of those as a county commissioner.
Yes. Which to me, I consider that the whole package, because I like the legislative stuff. I like problem solving on that level with residents I serve, but I also love the administration, and I've worked really well with the directors and other employees. And
so what do you do as a county commissioner now? What's your portfolio, and what are your responsibilities as the county commissioner?
Sure. So each of us has 2 other elected officials in our portfolio. So the surveyor recorder is in my portfolio, and I don't do too much with their office. They're pretty independent. The sheriff's also in my portfolio. He's also independent, but he has the biggest load of employees in his office, and also, of course, over 50% of our budget. So that's a big deal.
That's over 50% of your budget?
Yeah, and so I work closely with him, and we had a relationship before when I was the mayor, because they provided our law enforcement in West Haven. And so I was really excited that was in my portfolio, because I knew the sheriff and he knew me, and we got to work together, helping to make his office better. I better understood the jail side of it, when I became a commissioner, because
That you didn't understand
I
that
didn't
side
really
before.
understand. You know, as a mayor, you don't really deal too much with that. We contracted with them for law enforcement, so that's been really good for me to learn that part and to really understand better about those who are incarcerated and their needs and how we can best serve them.
So tell me a little bit about this race. What's going on with it? You know, what are the major issues that you're seeing?
Sure. So one of the major issues is the talk of the sheriff's office. I think everybody knows that the deputies were well underpaid. And a couple of years ago, the sheriff came to us as a commission and asked us if we would do an independent compensation study. He specifically wanted it to be a third-party study outside of the county. We knew the agencies were pulling our deputies for around $5 an hour more. And so we agreed to that. And at the same time, the three of us also agreed to implement whatever the recommendation was. And that was without knowing the price tag. But we were committed. You know, we knew that there was an issue, and it's an ongoing issue. And the sheriff's told me many times, the deputies aren't mad at you, they're mad at the commission. And when I say the commission, and I shouldn't even say mad at, frustrated, I guess is a better word. With the commission as a whole. And I think, you know, it predates me, a lot of it, but I think commissioners in the past have tried to make adjustments and tried to keep up. But I don't think there's ever been an established pay plan. And that's what we were really working toward. So we knew that the compensation study would take a bit of time, and we committed to implement it in January 2026. So in the meantime, his executive staff and he requested a retention pay, which we funded to help the deputies, you know, see the vision of, you know, they're working on this, they're committed to this.
Right.
That equated to, like I said, the average of about $5 an hour to give to each of those deputies. And that was important. We worked through that. We worked on the implementation of that with the chiefs. They actually helped us decide how to roll that out, which was quarterly, so that it would be easier to pay back if someone took that pay and then actually did leave to another agency. Anyway, they helped us with the payback portion of that, and you know, how to divide it up. And they were really cooperative, and it was helpful because we wanted to understand what exactly do we want this 10,000 to do. And they, you know, helped us understand that and implement it the way that they thought would be most effective. So the pay study took a little longer than we thought it would. A lot of that was collection of data from all the departments and offices as far as job descriptions. We had to tighten those up, and there were some that, you know, needed a lot of cleanup. Including
and that's part of what this study
part
did.
of the compensation study, yeah, and including the sheriff's office, both sworn and non-sworn. Like we had to clean up that and so that we can make those comparisons. And when I say we, I mean as a team with our outside.
Of tightening up what the description of each job was.
Yeah, because in order to make a fair comparison, right, you have to know exactly what that person's doing. So that took a little longer, but again, it was still implemented when we planned, which was January 26th, and we had the retention pay that they felt would keep deputies there. But we did, I mean, it was all sewn up in the summer of 2025, and we actually were able to implement a partial increase to those who the sheriff targeted and said, these are the most important, these are the ones we're losing. And it was the two lower ranks of deputies. So we funded their increase in August, a little ahead of time, and then funded the rest of them in January. So,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it came a little early, but they felt like that would be beneficial in helping keep some of them there, and I think it was. And anyway, so it was a long process and a hard process, but really good. And we just worked hand in hand. And, you know, the other commissioners, of course, were involved regarding the budget. But like I said, we meet every other week, the sheriff and I'd get updates on what's happening in the office and how the pay study's going. And so we really had a lot of communication during that time and felt like we supported them. And we know that he supported us. He kept reassuring me, I'm giving the message that we're behind you, you know. And so, yeah, he wanted to reassure us that the communication was there as far as, you know, the commissioners. But, you know, I can see the skepticism that some of the deputies had, for sure, because, you know, like I said, in prior commissions, I think they've tried to increase pay, they've tried to stay competitive, they've tried to do what they can, but without an actual formulated plan. And that was a big part of the compensation study, was to create a pay plan. And I think the sheriff's office, I'm not entirely sure, but I think they have been on step and grade before, but they haven't been for the last several years. And step and grade is how agencies compete against each other.
Right.
They know that if I have this many years as a deputy and this many in this rank, I can make this dollar amount.
Right.
And that, and
that's what this has done.
That's what this has implemented. And so it helps us be more competitive, because they can see what they can. We've had a lot of laterals come over since we did this pay increase, and they can see what will I make at the sheriff's office, and and it just helps us to be more competitive. And another really important thing that we did at the recommendation of the third party was to make 2 independent pay plans. So we have a pay plan that is for all the other county employees, including the non-sworn people in the sheriff's office, and then all the regular employees. That's separate from this.
And you did that at the same time.
And we did that at the same time.
You figured since you had this agency coming in.
And so we adopted 2 different pay plans, and that allows us now in wage wars, like we've seen recently, to just adjust the law enforcement one without having to necessarily adjust the rest of the county. It's just, it's a really unique profession, you know, and we've seen it, gratefully, it's settled down a little bit. And I think that agencies are close to fully staffed, and they're not poaching from each other as much anymore. It seems that way, but like I said, we've had, since January, we've had some great laterals come over to the sheriff's office with a lot of good experience, and it's been very beneficial. We also told the sheriff, now I'm realizing that you asked me the top topic, and here I am just
no, keep going.
sharing everything, but they also asked for additional deputies to patrol the contract cities. So like West Haven, there are other cities that contract their law enforcement with the sheriff's office. And I attend those quarterly meetings. I did that as mayor. I've done that as a commissioner. And there's always been concern about coverage. Can we get more coverage? You know, knowing that it will cost more.
Right.
Well, the sheriff asked for additional deputies for the contract cities, and as commissioners, we said, well, let's cross that bridge when we get to it. You know, we still have some staffing shortages. Let's see what happens when the pay increase is implemented. And we told him, as soon as you're fully staffed or close to, I mean, in that industry, there's rollover.
Right.
So as soon as you're fully staffed, then we will make a budget amendment, and we just did that.
Oh, you just did that.
So he expected it to take until the first quarter to get fully staffed, and it was actually about February that he said, we're almost there. So we started having those conversations. We approved additional deputies, and the contract cities are paying for those, so they'll see more patrol in their cities. So there were a lot of components to the compensation study, and a lot of components in making this situation right. But I feel really good about it, because like I said, with the new pay plan, it allows us a tool into the future that we can use, you know, instead of just trying to, I mean, you know, when deputies were submitting their resignation letters, it was a question of, do we try to match this, or do we try to match, and just, if you chase around individuals, you're not solving the problem, right? So that's been a huge deal, is to implement that and actually have some stability moving forward. So
well, that's great. Hey, we're going to take a break, and we'll come back.
Tired of media bias? Frustrated by political noise? Politic-It.com cuts through the clutter, giving you real facts, clear analysis, and unbiased insight on the issues that matter most. Stay informed, stay empowered. Whether it's elections, policy changes, or breaking news, we've got you covered. No spin, no agendas, just truth you can trust. Visit Politic-It.com today, because informed citizens shape the future. Politic-It.com, where politics meets clarity.
Welcome back to Politic-It. We've got Sharon Bolos with us, County Commissioner, candidate for reelection. So nice to have you. You know, we've been talking about your portfolio. I want to switch gears just a little bit. I mean, we've talked about the sheriff's office, and I think we've covered that pretty well. What are some of the other areas that you're over right now?
So within the county, with the departments that I oversee, HR, IT, public relations. Public relations is one of the really important ones, and something that I was able to do my first year in office. We actually had an expired contract with an out-of-state firm. They started in the area, but they had moved out of state, and they did our PR for the county. And it was really difficult. They had a representative here who actually met with us, and he was really great, but the delay in messaging was really a problem for me. And I had an experience in one of my internships during my master's program with Clearfield City, and I loved the way that they ran their PR. They had an in-house department. Their offices were right outside the assistant city manager. They always knew what was going on, and if any messaging needed to be out, they already knew. They were part of those conversations. And then when I got to the county and I realized that we had this outside firm, and it was just so difficult to get timely messaging out, and we were paying a lot of money for that contract. A lot of money for that contract. And so I ran it by the other commissioners, and I told them about my internship and what I'd learned, and we worked on getting that position established. It saved the county probably $200,000.
Really?
The contract by hiring. We have one person. Her office is right down the hall from me. She comes to all of our work sessions, and so she knows what's going on in the county. And we'll be in a work session, for example, and something comes up about a road closure, and we just turn and, Jessica, can you message that? And she knows what's going on. And so the messaging is just a quick turnaround, which is so important when you're trying to inform the public.
Right.
And it's been a game changer. It's been a game changer every time.
Especially now with social media and everything else.
Yeah, and it was just hard with the other firm to say, yeah, we need this out. They would take a stab at it, and then we would say, oh, this is a little, needs a correction, or this is wrong. And just the back and forth was just hard to get things out. And so it's been a huge.
So you've saved money and gotten better service, you feel?
Yeah. And so it's been a big deal. And every time she does a project, whether it's our State of the County, or whether it's our Crystal Bowl Awards, or whether it's one of our business spotlights that we do, every time the three of us have conversations about how great it is just to have her there and in-house. And it's been really good.
Well, that's good. So what are some of the other, you've got some other outside.
Oh, assignments? Yeah. So I sit on the Board of Health.
Okay.
For Weber-Maureen County, and that's one of my assignments. I also am the chair of the local homeless council.
Okay.
I've learned a lot about homelessness.
Right.
And I honestly didn't have an opinion one way or the other on homeless issues. I just, I wasn't for or against any of that. I just really didn't know. And when I went to my first local homeless council meeting, I was so caught off guard. I just really didn't understand what these service providers were doing. I didn't understand the purpose of the meeting. I didn't understand anything about it. And so in that first meeting, I said, what I want to do is get an invitation from every one of you service providers, and then want you to invite me out and show me what you do.
Right.
That was so beneficial to understand what services they're providing to homeless individuals, and how they're helping our community, and how they're working together. And I've put a lot of work into that, and really tried to understand. And I have a great relationship with the service providers, and I've chaired or vice chaired that committee now for the last 3.5 years, and they're doing a lot of good work. The coordination effort is what that council is about. The local homeless council is about coordinating efforts, making sure
between you, the cities.
Mostly among providers.
Okay.
So the cities aren't really involved. Ogden City is really involved because they have homeless advocates.
Right.
And so they have that seat at the table, but it's really all the providers. Lantern House, Seeger Memorial Clinic, veterans, all the providers that help individuals experiencing homelessness. And it's a way for them to come together and make sure that they're not duplicating services, or, if I have a client who's a veteran, for example, then I know where to send them.
Right.
And so it's just a way to make sure that they are most effectively serving the population.
So is that a pretty big budget item then?
It's not a budget item for the county. No, it's just a coordination effort.
Okay.
So, yeah.
The budgets really are allocated to these.
They operate on grants, and they all secure their own grants and provide their services and things like that. Now, there was a department in the county, and that department director served on the local homeless council in the first year that I was in office. Well, actually, it might have been the second year. I can't remember for sure, but anyway, we noticed that there was a duplication of services. There were services in this department that were also being handled by the health department.
Right.
And we actually eliminated that department.
Okay.
Eliminating 2 layers of management, which is
Always
great when you can,
Right.
reduce the budget that way. And we moved those individuals and their grant funding over to the health department. So that was some representation that I guess could be tied to the budget, was that department. But like I said, that's been several years.
And the health department is under you?
The health department is separate from the county,
Okay.
but I have the assignment of being on the board there. Yeah.
Okay.
So I represent the county on that board,
Right.
and the employees are the counties. So it's kind of a quasi government. That's how I
Right.
describe it.
Right.
The employees belong to the county, and it's kind of like we lease the employees to the health department.
Right.
Sort of how it works. So.
But that's a separate entity.
Yes. And then in the county's budget, we give the health department funding each year.
Okay.
And then they have grant funding, of course, for other things. And then
Right.
they get money from
And
Morgan
that's
County.
Weber and Morgan County.
Yep. And so they get money from Morgan County as well for their operations. So my role on that board is to represent the county, because we are a big funder in their budget, and help with the budget there. And then,
So let's go into just this race now.
Okay.
Tell me what's going on with it, with your race for reelection.
Well, I'll tell you this about my race.
Okay.
Personally, it is really hard to run a campaign while you're doing the job.
Right.
When I ran before,
Right.
I had all the time in the world. I had just
Right.
come off being the mayor. I was still doing a little bit of accounting, on the
Right.
side. But I just had everything to give to it.
Right.
When you're working full time at the job,
Right.
and then you try to campaign, after hours, and you try to respond. It's difficult, but I think as the incumbent, it gives you an ability to answer questions in a way that's very beneficial for voters.
Right.
Because an incumbent will understand the answer.
The role. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's and there's no blame to other candidates. I've been a candidate who was not, an incumbent before.
Right.
And you want to promise to do the best that you can, but there are some things you don't understand, and
Right.
you just have to be careful about what you promise, and that I've had that in my past, and you just try to walk that line. As an incumbent, it's a wide open where I love for people to ask me questions because I can answer them, and I can answer them with the detail,
Right.
that someone who's not an incumbent can. So I always welcome those conversations, but as you know, Senator,
Right.
a lot of times those conversations don't come to you.
Right.
So that's a frustrating part about the campaign. And with social media, the conversations swirl around on pages that you may or may not even belong to.
Right.
And so that's hard. Back in the day, my grandpa was a state legislator for many
he was?
years. Yes. And I always think to myself, he would have no clue what to do with social media, because I remember listening to him take phone calls from constituents.
Right.
It was a phone call,
Right.
or a letter in the mailbox,
Right.
with their issues, and
Not even email.
no, not even email.
Right.
And once in a while, someone would come to his house, but usually a phone call or a letter.
Right.
And I watched him navigate those issues, and how easy is that, right? People came right to you with their
Right.
issues, and now it's just so
Now there's so many of them you don't even see.
that you don't even see and you don't even know. So navigating that, I think, has been more difficult this time because I'm in office and I don't have the time to sort of, watch all that's going on. But I always welcome conversations, and I've had a lot of great ones. Even in office, separate from the campaign, I've had a lot of constituents in my office with concerns and things they want to talk about. I love that. I've spoken to Cub Scout groups before. When I was the mayor, I spoke to a lot of them, and they would always say, "What's your favorite part of the job?" And the same goes for commissioner. My favorite part of the job is when an angry constituent calls me. And they would always look at me like, that's a strange answer, right? But it's an opportunity to educate and an opportunity to gain their input, to help them understand why you're doing what
Yeah,
you're
because that's a two-way conversation
right.
there.
It's like, I love those phone calls and I love those emails, because now you're coming to me and asking me why I did what I did, or why I'm thinking of doing what I'm thinking of doing. And I'm asking you what concerns you have, and that one-on-one is just
Right.
so beneficial. And it's just really easy now to say, what have you heard about so-and-so? And what have you heard about, you know what I mean? People can just do that on their computer or their phone, and it's easy to gain what they think is valuable information, and some of it is, but some of it's not, and so I always welcome those conversations.
Yeah.
So that my campaign has been about, please contact me. please give me a call. Please share your ideas with me. Please share your concerns with me, because I want to address those myself.
Right. Yeah, so we're about out of time. So why don't you take a look in the camera and give a pitch? Why should people vote for you?
Okay, I would love to do that. My experience on the commission has been very valuable and is valuable moving forward. There's a learning curve whenever somebody takes office. I actually had an advantage of that learning curve with my experience as the mayor, and my degree in public administration really helped me to hit the ground running. Now that I've got the experience under my belt, the relationships that I've developed with other elected officials and with county leaders is extremely beneficial for the county. And I just really would love to continue working hard. We've talked a little bit about the budget. That's always my pet project, because I love saving money. I'm a numbers person. I'm an accountant. I dig into that. I ask hard questions, and I expect justification for spending, and I'll continue that going forward and trying to save the taxpayers' money and find other ways that we can save, some of which we've talked about today, and others into the future. There's a lot of work to be done in the budget, and I really look forward to that, and look forward to continuing to serve the constituents of Weber County.
Thank you, Sharon Bolos. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.